stereotypes,
hatred,
labels,
judgment,
outcast, discrimination,
fear, bigotry,
racism,
injustice, intolerance, ignorance,
unacceptance.
I've witnessed many issues concerning diversity at my school. During my freshman year, I was fortunate enough to have a wonderful and inspiring English teacher who was new to our school district. She had just come from a different school where she felt as if the students were not given nearly the amount of opportunities as the students in my district were. She always made her opinion very, very clear and well known, and she was able to stand up for herself and express herself in every possible situation that could arise. She was also a supporter of women in the arts. Like her favorite poet, for example, was Maya Angelou. About halfway through the year, one of her students scratched out the face of Maya Angelou on a poster, writing the N-word next to her name. Every single person in my class was shocked at the very idea that someone would actually think to do such a disrespectful thing. In response to this, my English teacher emailed the entire staff telling them what had occurred. She received many positive and supporting emails back from the staff, and as her student, I offered her my full support for fighting for a more tolerant school. Instead of taking the poster down, she displayed the poster in her classroom and surrounded it by her poetry and the many emails and letters she received. Instead of letting this show defeat, she continues to leave it on a wall in her classroom. I am proud that I was fortunate enough to have such a wonderful English teacher who showed me how to be strong and fight for tolerance and diversity.
Though I come from a very good family with many different types of people and backgrounds, there have been many times I've dealt with racism from others. The time that sticks out the most in my mind was the time me and my sister were at the zoo with her 3-year-old daughter. That day started off great. It was the first time my niece had ever been to the zoo, so she was very happy to go. As I mentioned, my family is very diverse, and that includes my niece who is biracial. Within my family, we never thought of her as being different from us. We just loved her the way she was. But I learned that day at the zoo that everyone doesn't think the same way. Shortly after arriving, a lady came up to my sister and said, "That can't be your child. She's black and you're white." My sister's face lit up with anger and she asked the lady, "Why wouldn't that be my child?" "Well, if that's your child, she must be a zebra." My sister became very angry and wanted to go off on the lady, but I stopped her and told her that wouldn't help the situation. For the rest of the day, I thought of the lady and what she had said to my sister. How could someone be so rude to say something like that? This situation makes me realize how fortunate I am to have a great family that accepts everyone for who they are.
To a 4th grader, Halloween is supposed to be one of the best nights of the year. Candy, trick-or-treating, and dressing up. But sometimes, it's the little acts we do as people every day that can banish such a joy in a child's heart. A group of us were meeting at my friend's house for a Halloween party and to go trick-or-treating. I had been to the party every year, but this was my friend Stacy's first time going. After being at the party for a while, we put on our coats and the parents took us trick-or-treating around the neighborhood. The boys ran ahead and the girls broke off into smaller groups. Stacy and I were walking next to each other. We went from house to house telling our jokes and getting candy and having a great time. Soon into the night, we walked up to the house that was brightly lit. Kids were coming down the steps holding giant, full-sized candy bars like Snickers, Hershey's, and Baby Ruth's. They were excited because they had gotten such good treats, which made us excited too. Stacy and I were joined by some of our friends as we ran up to the house together. When we stepped onto the porch, we all shouted in unison, "Trick or treat!" The lady smiled at us and asked if we had any jokes. My friend and I said our jokes, and the lady reached into her bag and gave us a big candy bar. But this did not happen for Stacy. When the lady saw Stacy's dark-colored skin, her face changed. Stacy told her joke, and instead of smiling and encouraging her like the rest of us, the lady just kept a plain face. When Stacy finished, instead of giving her one of the huge candy bars like we had got, she reached into her pocket and took out one small piece of bubble gum wrapped in plastic and dropped it in her bag. And with that, the night was over. Stacy remained silent for the rest of the way back. Not sure what we should do, we didn't bother her and we didn't tell the parents who waited down by the sidewalk. When my mom came to pick Stacy and I up, the car ride was silent. Although my mom tried to bring up a conversation and ask us how the night went, we remained pretty quiet. The situation that happened that night was not brought up until much later. Stacy explained to me that it wasn't that one instance that had upset her. It's all the small acts of hate that she faces every day of her life that got to her. Stacy has grown up to be one of the most strong and most lively people I have ever known, and she continues to teach the world just as she taught me.
I recently experienced a form of discrimination a mere half-mile from my school.
After watching a girls' basketball game, I was picked up by my sister and little brother, and as we exited the school, a reckless driver began tailing us. We were doing the speed limit, but my sister began to slow the car down in order to make the driver slow down and stop driving so poorly. This continued until we reached the stop sign at the next corner, only to be met with a middle finger from the driver in the car, which he had just switched lanes. When we turned right to continue our route home, but we noticed that he'd moved from his original lane and kept following us. My sister stopped the car at the next stop sign, which infuriated the driver enough to leave his car and approach the window. He asked, "What's the problem here?" My sister replied, "Sir, you were tailing us and being very rude by doing so." I wasn't as polite as she was and began using a more stern voice and more foul language as well. In short, I told him that he was in fact being very rude and needed to reconsider his position in the situation. If you kept it moving, this would have never happened. It's my town. Shocked, my sister asked, "Wait, it's not our town?" "No, it's not. I don't see any camels or turbans around here," stated the man. After he said this, he turned his head and began walking toward his vehicle, only to be met with a few words of my own. But I felt as if I had been defeated, and like my siblings, was amazed by what had just happened and didn't say a single word on the car ride back home.
I've seen people picked on because of their race, ethnicity, or other reasons. I remember a time when I was picked on because of my race. I was on the bus going home and some guys started making fun of me because they said that I didn't talk black enough. My first thought was, is there a way you have to speak for a certain race? It was like I was being discriminated and judged because of my voice and my color. I have also seen this happen when black people make fun of white people when they try to act black. Unfortunately, I used to think this way sometimes before I started the Give Respect, Get Respect youth program. Now I've learned it's not okay to stereotype people based on their looks or background.
As a counselor, I have many opportunities to impact students positively concerning issues of diversity in the school. Every adult in our school is a role model for our students, including myself. If we are aware of our own biases and can show appropriate ways to deal with them, then we can indirectly influence kids to do the same. Leading by example is very important to our students. If they can see open-minded adults through their high school career, then students will begin to adopt those behaviors and take those skills with them into society as a whole. There are several chances during the school year to hold small group activities for students who are struggling with diversity and accepting different views in our school. Some students are more open than others to change, but I have been able to work with all types, and being a part of the Give Respect, Get Respect youth program has helped me speak with kids on a deeper level. The group format of Give Respect, Get Respect and the group dynamics can also be adapted and put into place for our students as well. I feel more confident in confronting prejudice because I've had the opportunity to fully experience other stories and the approach taken by the program. With these skills, I can model appropriate behavior and move students towards a more accepting view of our society.
The Give Respect, Get Respect program allows working professionals to view the school as a microcosm of society. Diversity and its role in society are critical success factors in relationships and progress. By stepping out of the business environment, I've been given an opportunity to see individual frames of reference and filters, and these experiences have allowed me to understand and recognize their impact on meeting personal and business objectives. I've learned that an inclusive environment opens up possibilities by leveraging the talent, skills, and experiences of everyone to meet individual and organizational goals. By having this program in place, I can personally experience how diversity and success are intrinsically linked.
As students continue to grow, they must become aware of their social responsibility to ensure equal rights for themselves and their peers. In middle school, students tend to be equally egocentric and caring. Middle school students are great at rallying to put together a car wash or to support hurricane victims, yet they cannot sit with someone of a different race at the lunch table. It is at these moments when a teacher can begin to shape the ideologies of his or her students. Taking time at the car wash or before lunch are times when a teacher can help students explore the concept that differences are lateral, not longitudinal. In other words, our differences do not make us any higher or lower than anyone else. I can positively impact students regarding issues of diversity by creating opportunities to dialogue, sharing my experiences, and supporting any efforts my students make to support our diverse cultures. I can also support efforts towards professional development in diversity. We as teachers cannot teach what we do not understand. Our classrooms are only as strong as our weakest links. I intend to ensure the strength of our diverse cultural links by supporting the shaping of the thoughts, moral standards, and actions of my students.